Welcome to the Executive Committee. Today is December 6th, 2021. First up on the agenda is Ms. Solano with the city updates.
Thank you, Chairman Aliff, City Council, and Mayor Gradisar. I'll start this evening with a COVID update of a brief COVID update of what was discussed in the unified messaging this morning with the community-wide public information officers. The 1 week cumulative positivity case count is 305.2 today, which is down from 314.7 last Friday. The 1 week positivity rate is 6.1 this afternoon, down from 6.4 this past Friday. And we do have at the state site 8 days of stabilized COVID hospitalizations. At the meeting this morning, the Parkview Hospital representative reported that they had 81 COVID patients in the hospital. They were pleased with that number as it is down from 100 where they had been the last several days. And they were sorry to report that they had 5 deaths this past weekend that were due to COVID. The health department reported that they were planning media releases and additional information out to the community in all areas that they can on the monoclonal treatments that'll be available at the Pueblo Mall COVID clinic site, and that there would not be a necessity for a doctor's prescription, but there would be a requirement for to register at the state site. So they're getting all that information together, and they will then have the media release soon. Also, the health director, Randy Evitz, and the health physician, Dr. Chris Urbina, do plan to report in person to City Council on the last Monday of the month. So that will be on Monday, December the 27th, and they will be here in person to provide an update, and then also or on Zoom, and then also to be able to answer any questions that come up. That's the COVID update. I do have an Arpa update, and only to say that the Arpa Community Task Force are completing their last round of submittal requests. They came in October. They will have their recommendations to the mayor as this coming Friday, and then we will look into his review of them to determine which of the recommendations we would like to recommend to City Council, and then we'll schedule the work session accordingly. There is an update that this coming Thursday on December the 9th, the mayor's hosting with EPA a town hall for the Superfund site in Pueblo. It's a call-in meeting similar to what we've seen. If you're a para-retiree, they call in for updates. On the agenda, there will be some current status conversation between what's been questions about any testing versus remediation. It's scheduled for 6 p.m. and I will send you the email telephone number, but also this is the number. It is 888-886-6602. And I'll make sure and follow up with a text and or an email message. It's at 6 p.m. Thursday, December the 9th. And lastly, I just would like to share that the mayor's planning to host a city council reception for outgoing councilors on Monday evening, December the 27th, from 5 to 6 p.m. before the city council meeting. It will be in Memorial Hall in the pre-event room on the first floor. There will not be a work session, correct, Mr. Chairman, that evening. The reception will be in place of the work session. The invitation will be placed next week in the Pueblo Chieftain, the city website, city Facebook. So the invitation is open to all. It will be, I believe, refreshments, coffee, tea, water, and Christmas cookies, sugar goodies in the reception. I will send a reminder also on Monday evening in the electronic invitation that you should see in the newspaper next week. And that concludes the city updates, and unless you have directions or questions on future reporting.
Thank you, Ms. Solano. Any questions, comments? All right, we'll move on to number 2 on the agenda, which is renewable energy, prosperous Pueblo. Mr. Dante.
Thank you.
Thank you, councilors. Thank you, Mayor, for this opportunity. We'll get going as soon as we get these things passed out. So I'm representing Renewable Energy Owners Coalition of America, REOCA, and also Pueblo Energy Future, which is a collective group. Everyone in these organizations are unpaid, all nonprofit work. The REOCA organization's mission is to protect and promote distributed renewable energy resources for the economy, the environment, and a sustainable future. This presentation I'm going to give is a high-level presentation, and I hope it's informative. It's actually a pretty exciting presentation, at least I view it like that. So if we can get going with the slides. Do I just do it myself?
I have started up.
Okay. Okay, so this presentation, we're going to talk about the problem that we're trying to solve, the solution, and actions we need to take. So this graph is basically showing two trajectories that we can take. We're in a climate crisis, and we can see that with the fires burning during the summer months, what's happening in California, the drought. I'll go into a little more details on that. But the blue line is kind of what will happen if we mitigate the climate crisis by reducing greenhouse gases. If we don't, we're going to see upwards of a 5 degrees C temperature change. And you know, we're experiencing these crises in about a degree of temperature change. So we really need to act on this. Really, you know, the precious resource for the West is water. We have enough water to support the Western USA. Water supply comes from the snow in the mountains. And this snowpack in Colorado has been deteriorating over time. And I think one thing important to remember is renewable energy, solar, photovoltaics, wind, they don't use any water. Higher temperatures, we're seeing severe droughts. And this is a map from, I believe it was in July when we took the snapshot. Droughts increase our water needs. So as the temperature increases, you know, every degree C, I think our water needs increase like 6x. And what we're seeing, and as demonstrated, we're seeing all these forest fires during the summer months, and our air quality suffers pretty badly. Even here in Pueblo, you know, in the summer months, with all the smoke haze, it was bad. This is another kind of the same thing. Severe droughts, increased water needs, large, more intense forest fires. I mean, if you look at some of those California fires, there were fire tornadoes. It's so hot. And again, poor air quality. In Colorado, if Colorado, the state has looked at greenhouse gases by sector, and the two big ones are electric generation and transportation. Those are kind of low hanging fruit for Colorado. And if we could fix those two, it's going to have a big impact on our quality. So those things are going to come first. These other the manufacturing sector, the building sector are going to take a little more time to look at, and we'll talk about that here a little bit. So what do we need to do to mitigate the climate change? We're in a wonderful time, okay? And this graph shows the levelized cost of energy. And if you look at, can I point with this thing, by the way? No, okay. The wind and solar are the lowest cost energies. So it's cheap. It's the cheapest way to generate power. If we go up the graph, you know, natural gas, geothermal, coal is about 3 times more expensive than wind or solar, and nuclear is even more costly. So here we are. We have a solution. Pueblo has some of the best insolation, not insulation, but insolation, which is sunshine. So we have a lot of sun here. In this area, Pueblo County, El Paso County, great sunshine. So what we need to do is build out solar and battery farms in Pueblo. That'll help the tax base. It's not quite as much as a factory, but if we put enough of them in, it could probably be equivalent to a coal plant tax base, and it's safe and sustainable, and it doesn't need any water. Now, in Pueblo, this topic of nuclear power has come up, and there's a couple issues that I think are pretty critical. One is that the nuclear waste has to stay on site. There's really no where to take that waste, so it stays on site. And in this nuclear waste soup, it first goes in water, so you need 60 meters of water to cool that soup, that nuclear waste down. Then after years, it will go into cement casts like they're shown in this picture. But that nuclear waste contains elements like plutonium-239 with a half-life of 24,100 years. And to make that safe, you need to go through 28 half-lives, which is 674,000 years. Are we going to give our descendants that problem to deal with? The other thing is that nuclear generation is the most expensive, one of the most expensive ways to generate power. It's 3 to 15 times more expensive based on Bloomberg and Lazard data. What this means is that renewable energies, can have up to 15 times the economic impact of nuclear power. And nuclear power has been, the history of nuclear generation is there's cost overruns, time delays. It takes decades to get these things operational. Now, nuclear power also requires large amounts of water to cool the waste. This fourth generation reactor that they're talking about, the SMRs, small modular reactors, are still kind of experimental. They really haven't been built. The fourth generation is a base load. It's hard to turn that nuclear power on and off.
Cool. Yeah, I may be here for a while, but that's fine. Yep, I'm cool.
You could turn.
Excuse me, Ken. Excuse me 1 minute. You got it?
Okay. It's a little distracting when somebody else is talking, right? So it's really not dispatchable energy. They advertise it as dispatchable, but you can shut nuclear power down pretty fast because of the safety issues, but you can't turn it on very fast. It takes days to get to that critical mass. So if you look at this, do we really need the long-term health issues that are associated with nuclear if there are better solutions out there and more economical solutions? Okay. On this transportation sector, EVs are going to replace the internal combustion engine. That's coming. Okay. Toyota, says that 70% of their vehicles will be EVs by 2030. It'll probably happen sooner. The graph is kind of showing the decreasing cost of lithium-ion batteries that are used in EVs, and they've gone down this really steep learning curve. They're getting cheaper. The key point is this $100 per kilowatt hour is kind of where EVs will then become, it will make a lot of economic sense. They'll be cheaper, they'll be faster, they'll be better. So that's coming. So that will solve a lot of the emissions by internal combustion engines. The other point I should make is that we're in this transition. We've got a couple decades to fix these problems. So it's not like we're going to turn this on tomorrow. So the solution, we can, if we go at it deliberate and at a good pace, we can solve these problems. So actions. one of the actions is we're going to electrify everything. We're going to get rid of any fossil fuel use. So we need to do, so your buildings are all going to become all electric. We're not going to use natural gas in them. Now, that transition will happen in about a decade, maybe sooner if the right inventions come along faster. But we need to do major upgrades in our buildings to make sure that that envelope is tight, that they're energy efficient, especially I would say for the low income folks, so that they don't get hit by high electric costs. Transportation is going to become EVs. We're going to be cooking with electric. Actually, if you look at induction oven cooktops, much more efficient, faster heating than natural gas cooktops. Manufacturing will need a zero carbon footprint. And again, the transition is not immediate. We just need to be deliberate and have a plan transition for this. Also, our electric bills are pretty high in Pueblo. So, that's another confounding point. If there's something we could do to lower that cost, and I think renewables will help. Just transition. Okay, so Pueblo is considered a disproportionately impacted community, mainly because of that the Comanche coal plant. This opens us up to state and federal funds, and if the Build Back Better Act gets approved, there's going to be significant funds to help support that transition, to kind of make sure that our tax base isn't impacted. There was a lot of talk in this recent Comanche electric resource plan about the closure of C3 and all the people that need that tax base were saying, let's keep it open to 2040. Well, actually, Excel has made a counter proposal that plant will shut down by 2035, and that Excel will make up the difference. So, Excel needs help in this too, because they put that plant here. It doesn't provide Pueblo any electricity. It's really for folks up north, Denver area. We got the bad air, they got the electricity. Also, there's a job transition, and Excel says that they're going to keep all those people employed. It's about 77 jobs. But Excel needs to make sure that that property tax base is also supported by them, along with the state and federal government. So I think we as a city need to make sure that we're tapping all the resources we can tap to make sure that we have a equitable transition. This map is basically the last ERP with Excel when they were asking for additional generation resources, that little slot of yellow at the bottom is all the solar in Pueblo County, and we know that solar went out because it's cheaper. It's lower cost. It's just the right way to do things. So we could solve this problem with solar and batteries in the city of Pueblo. Wind is also another option, but there's not a lot of wind in Pueblo County. It's in one corner, and it's probably already built out as much as it can be. If you could get wind and solar operating together, they kind of counterbalance each other, because sun during the day, wind at night, so they can really kind of balance each other out. Batteries will be important, though. What we probably ought to look at for Pueblo is to get that switching station that Excel plans to build. That should be built here in Pueblo. Now, the great story about this, if we did choose this renewable path, we're going to need to build factories in the United States to meet the demand for these solar plants. And the estimate is about $350 manufacturing plants, gigafactories, big gigantic factories that produce a lot of solar panels or wind generators, or whatever the components are that we need to be built out. This will generate thousands. Actually, in the United States, it'll generate millions of jobs. We need to make Pueblo an exemplary community. And this is talking about making our buildings better. We need to make all the buildings energy efficient. So when we go to this all electric transition, it's not a big impact. And maybe it even lowers our our energy bills. So there's a lot of work to be done there. Now the county has a program to support low and moderate income folks. It's a great program. They're doing about 200 homes a year. We need to do 26,000 low income homes, low and moderate income homes. And if you do the math, that's about 130 years at that rate. We need to do this in the next couple decades, probably really the next decade. So we really need to ramp this up. And if we could use that county model, or even the county to do this, to get them the resources, that would be a great thing, because they do a really good job. So, you know, really, all this needs to come together before 2040. New buildings, you know, in Pueblo should be this net zero design. And one great example is the new community health center, Pueblo Community Health Center. It's a net zero building. It's going to supply all its own energy, has rooftop solar. It has a lot of innovation like geothermal heating. It's really kind of a model building. I think they gave a presentation on this, and they said that there was about 6 net zero buildings being qualified in the United States, 1 in Pueblo, the rest in California. This is the model that we need to do for our buildings in Pueblo. You know, we need to build on Pueblo's excellence. CSU Pueblo is a net zero energy university. They produce all their own energy. If you've driven out on the Walking Stick Boulevard, you can see that array that powers that university. It's a great thing. The other thing is Evraz is now a net zero energy steel mill. You know, these are firsts in the country that we should really promote. This is great. If you go out and look at that Evraz plant, the Bighorn plant, they have biplanar panels. They have photovoltaics on the front and back of these panels, so they're even collecting energy from the reflected energy on the ground. And it's not going to provide a lot of jobs, which is why that energy is cheap. You know, it doesn't take much to maintain that. As a matter of fact, they fly a drone over those panels to see if there's any issues by using thermal imaging to address the issue. You don't use water. They don't need to clean these panels. It's really a neat thing. If you want to make energy at its cheapest, this is the way to do it. Now, let's get back to these gigafactories. I think this is a real opportunity for Pueblo. If we build this out, we're going to need these 359 gigafactories being built throughout the United States to provide solar, wind components. Just to do the solar piece, we need to build a 300 megawatt solar farm every day until 2040. That's the scope of what we're talking about. And in addition to that, there's an equal amount of wind that needs to be built out in the United States. So it's a massive problem with great opportunities. So let's get some of those factories here in Pueblo. That could solve all our tax problems. That could solve a lot of our employment problems. It could introduce a whole new workforce to the Pueblo community. So what do we need to do? We need to leverage federal and state funds to attract some of these factories. We need to be talking to the folks that can help us get these factories at the state and federal level. So, you know, the opportunities are PV solar manufacturing and recycling. Don't forget the recycling part of this too. There's a whole recycling industry coming out. Battery manufacturing, EV manufacturing. Maybe we can get a battery factory here. Wind turbine manufacturing, and all the components. We have a steel mill. Those solar farms need a lot of steel to hold the panels. Another thing, my background is in microelectronics, and I've worked in the semiconductor industry for over 40 years. The big manufacturing company is TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation. It's in Taiwan. And we hear all the issues going on with Taiwan. All our advanced electronics, a lot of it comes out of Taiwan. So we need an alternative to that supply chain. Pueblo has a lot of, Pueblo has the water resources. That would be a great business to get into. That would create about 10,000 jobs. Probably 5 for the company and all the support industries around it. And these jobs would require high skilled workers, both on the mechanical side, the people that would maintain the buildings and systems, along with the engineers and scientists that would run the factories, and that would drive our quality of life around in Pueblo considerably. And I think that's the conclusion of it. So, in essence, I think this is a wonderful opportunity. A lot of new jobs. It may not be a great opportunity if you're in a fossil fuel industry, but if you're making this transition into renewables, it's a wonderful time.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Nobody has anything? We're all good. I'm looking once, twice. Yeah, that's a great report. Great report, and shows a lot of specific things that a community could take advantage of. As a consumer, though, it's if I wanted to do my part, if I wanted to buy an electric vehicle, it costs 30% more than a gas vehicle, so I can't afford it. If I want to buy a net zero house, cost another $100,000 to buy that house, as opposed to a different house.
So things are changing, right? The cost of electric vehicles really are in the batteries, right? As that battery cost comes down, those vehicles' costs will come down. In the net zero thing, I don't think it's $100,000. I think it may add 10, 20% more to your costs, but you got to look at it at what you're going to save in the future, right? With a really energy efficient home, that means your energy costs are going to go to zero. So all that savings,
but they go to zero, but I have to pay for 20 years for the solar. So in 20 years, my heirs will be able to take advantage of the solar savings.
I think, solar pays off in about 6 to 7 years in Pueblo. I'm seeing a head shake no, but that's not true. I'm personally a rooftop solar owner, and my bill savings are about, and it's just my wife and I in a house. Our bill savings are about $1,800 a year. Okay, my environmental impact, if you monetize the savings in carbon dioxide or greenhouse gases, that's about $2,500 a year that I'm saving the environment. So my impact to the environment's even bigger. And the typical solar installation for a Pueblo home is probably around $20,000, and you get a 23% federal tax credit if you qualify. So if you do the math, if you talk with the folks at NREL and USC Fort Collins, the payback in Pueblo is about 6 to 7 years.
Good information. I appreciate everything you do. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll go to number 3 on the agenda, which is Westgate Guardians. Mr. Bay, Mr. Martin.
Jack,
There,
can
I got
there you
Can
go.
you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Back to our commercial. Can you hear me now, Verizon? First of all, I want to thank all of you. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving, and you're get ready for a happy holiday season as well. It's hard to believe it's actually December and where Christmas is upon us, but it's here. The second thing I want to do, I also want to thank Mayor Gradishar and his office for all the stuff that they've done really for CHPA and allowing us to move forward a little bit with 18th Street, getting the funding for that, getting it in a process where we can at least begin to break ground sometime in hopefully in early January to late January, at least begin construction on that and try to get it done sometime before our next building is built. And then also I want to thank his staff too, because his staff has been very helpful in allowing us to get on to City Council, this work session today. So we want to thank you guys for that. We're very grateful we had the opportunity. But what we wanted to do, we've had an opportunity to share with each of you over the past 6 or 7 months a little bit about Westgate, but I wanted to bring you a few updates of what has happened and a few things, and then I want Bruce to speak a little bit about some of the levity of why we've asked to come forward today for one last opportunity to share with you what we feel is especially in the Westgate area. A couple good things is one, right before Thanksgiving, we had the opportunity of having a topping out ceremony. Several individuals had an opportunity to attend, and those that don't, like Mayor Gradishar and I know President Atencio attended, and I appreciate that. But some of you folks that we didn't get a chance to get your handprint in a cast, we'll get that over the next 2 or 3 weeks or right after the holidays. And so when the building actually opens up, we've got a mural planned where your handprint and your name will live in infamy forever. And for assisting us in getting a lot of the stuff done on the Westgate area. Last update that we had, we have been, as we've been notified by the best, we have been awarded our best grant. We're just really waiting on the final things now of the logistics of how that can really work out for us and that. So, when we look at really our $80 million investment that we're making on this side of town, there's really only one other project that's really waiting, and that's our football field facility track, and that we'll be able to have an artificial track that we can use for the community as well for various functions, from flag football to band to track to all kinds of stuff. And very, very grateful to see a lot of this stuff come to fruition, but it's not without a lot of the assistance from a lot of you folks, Dennis Flores, Bob Schilling, Mark, all of yourself, Mayor Gradishar. All of you have had a good impact in what's going on at not only Chavez Huerta Preparatory Academy, but also on the west side. So we want to thank you for that. But we want to get back to you a little bit and talk to you a little bit about some of the impacts that are really are beginning to arise with COVID, and why we feel it's imperative that right now that we get an opportunity to make one last presentation. Hopefully we can get the funding for not only the Westgate communities, but also the Pikes Peak community, or Pikes Peak Park community that's being on the west side as well. As you recall, what we made a request for was about $4.5 million of water and sewer investment, not initially, but over the span of hopefully the $36 million that the city is getting with the from the Arpa American Recovery Act funds. But one of the things that we're looking at, and that's just us being the Chippa area and the Westgate area, but also remember that the schools that we're actually going to be building and stuff also are going to benefit Pikes Peak Park. We're looking forward to that. There's approximately about 1,000 homes that are planned to be built over the next 3 to 5 years. I think our builders and developers are planning on doing it much sooner. They're hoping to be actually built out in 3 years with theirs. And so we're all in the process of making some relationships with Neighborhood Works. We're working with them to try to join their metro district, not only from Chippa's standpoint at the school. We think there's some very key advantages for us being part of that as well. And I know Bruce Martin can attest this is also for the community standpoint of the housing. And the reason why we're looking into part of this stuff is we really feel it's important. So not only get an initial investment to help the builders and developers get all the homes built so we can add students to our schools. But it's also important that we sustain it for the future and allow us to, being within the West Side community, to support the West Side community for not only today and as we get built out, but for also the future as well. And so that's one of the reasons why we're really looking at getting in. And we've had some preliminary discussions with Ashley Winans over at Neighborhood Works. And we've all had a couple of discussions with our attorneys. I know Bruce is talking to his attorney, and I know we've had a little bit of conversations with the Pueblo development folks and Chris Markey as well. So I wanted to share that with you, and kind of I'll turn it over to Bruce. But one of the things that we've noticed, I've noticed it quite a bit, especially as we've begun to get our cost. We were very fortunate when we built our first building, because as COVID hit, we were on the early onsets of starting our building. We made a very strategic decision to buy out all of our steel and all of our major components, and thank God we did, because now our building, it was a 14-month build for our new building. We're about a month ahead of schedule. I was telling Bruce Martin a little bit before the meeting, we had the topping off party right before the Thanksgiving break. I was fortunate to be able to take my family and go to Hawaii for a well-deserved graduation present for my daughter. They graduated from Arizona State, but what was nice about it is over this 2-week period, they made up a heck of a lot of time, and our roof right now this week is being put on, and by the end of this week, we'll actually be dried in. And what's nice about that is those that are familiar with construction, once you're dried in, there's not a lot of perils that can stop us from meeting our date by June, end of June, having the building completed. So we're well in the process of doing that. But one of the things that we've noticed is the impacts of what the COVID pandemic is doing to supply chains. And so I'll have Bruce talk a little bit about what we're seeing in that. And so I'll turn it over to you, Bruce.
Sure. Thank you. So again, want to thank
Hold
Peter
on.
Grashot. Oh, sorry.
Daryl, can you put who's speaking on the big screen for us?
That
Thanks.
would be me.
Bruce,
Yeah.
you get the big screen.
Yes. So just a couple of things here initially. So just again, want to thank Mayor Grashar for helping out with 18th Street. That's been a key component for us. The reason why it's such a key component is that it has a super corridor for marketing, a super corridor to have our model homes out there. And until that happens, we can't do our fair share of doing an accurate and a complete and successful marketing standpoint for the new homes and all that. So having getting that going has been great. I've been pretty tagged on that for a long time, for about a year now, and just recognize a few people. It sounds minor, but the recording office at downtown has been great. Every the people down there have been super helpful, and just getting all the information that we need when we're starting to get to the close idea of getting onto this to the for the first reading. I know we did a little bit of an act of God there, and Marissa did, and Alyssa did a great job, and Julia over at the Chief of Staff office, and all those people were really great and instrumental. I walked into the office, they actually knew who I was and all that stuff. So just getting that helpfulness and getting everyone on the same page to move forward on that was great. Also to recognize Jack's doing an excellent job with getting the school going, which has been getting all these grants affiliated with it. And then, as Jack's mentioned in the past, usually you do the homes, the rooftops first, and then the school. We're kind of doing it backwards here. And with all his successes with grants and all that stuff, it's almost an obligation for the community here to get things going, get the houses going and all that stuff. So we have lifestyle development and we have Pueblo development. And those two have teamed up to get the commitment of getting these homes built. Pueblo development has stockpiled lumber at their facilities for almost a year now. So they've got the benefit in that specific material cost of a 40% savings. We've talked about that in the past, and we spoke to Chris just a couple of weeks ago. He still has it. He's still energized about this property. And his concern is we need to act now. The supply chain is getting larger or getting differential cost increases. Copper's gone up 40%. Talking to electricians, talking to folks that up in Windsor that do these conversions for trailers, the storage trailers and convert them into single family residence and all that stuff. It's just amazing on how much the cost has come up. Same thing for 18th Street. Obviously we're going out for bid soon, and we're going to need to get some of that information back. And some of those are going to be a little bit of sticker shock on some of that raw material pricing. It won't be the lumber though. So anyway, just wanted to understand that from our standpoint, from a builder and developer, getting the money approved sooner than later. And that's why we're making another effort here to recognize the fact that the school's obviously going up. We've got 18th Street well on its way. And now it's time to help us get some of this money going for the infrastructure for the water and sewer. We're not asking for everything, the roads and all that stuff, but I did talk to a consultant with McWinney up in Denver area. His name's Jim Nemchek. And he came through and he did some quick analysis. And he said, basically, if you don't get those initial grants to get that water and sewer in, you're going to be in negative dollars, and it doesn't make sense to even do the project. So just let the property sit and see what happens. So that's why it's such a critical component for us. The other thing about that is, is we have the fact of the market. The market's still gonna continue. We all believe, Pueblo Development and Lifestyle believe that the market's gonna continue through next year, potentially into the following year. And with that said, we're already a little behind the 8 ball in the sense of just if we can get the monies approved, we can get the ball rolling, get the engineering developed. We've had a great relationship with JVA up in Colorado Springs that have been able to jump on things for 18th Street. We have a great working relationship with them, have them come in and get the community plan. But until we have the dollars allocated, it's going to be we have to kind of hold tight on all that stuff. And by holding tight, we can't get onto their schedule, thus causing further delay and pushing things out to take advantage of the market. The other element about this is that with every new home built, 278 goods and services are sold per new home. So not only the fact that you have the benefit of the tax dollars and the building and building materials that are purchased within the community or the Pueblo area, you've also got every new household that builds in all those services and all that remedial stuff, a container store, going to a Walmart, going to a Best Buy and buying a new TV. All that stuff adds up. Home Depot for all the paint and all that stuff. So you have all that trickle effect. And I know Jack has kind of beat the drum on how the community on the west side's been neglected. The reason why I have the passion for it is I started out my development career in Chicago with a program called New Homes for Chicago program. My goal is to take that program, meeting actually with the author of that program, Bill Walk, in Chicago here in a couple of weeks. I've sent them all the data on what we're doing and how tax benefits can happen and bring in not only for the builders, developers, but also for the people there. The solar panels, like the gentleman before me spoke about, all that stuff. If we want to get all these factories in here, we need to prove that we're building homes at a moderate level income level. Our initial talk about having these homes started pricing was at $249,000. Well, if you had no contribution for the water and sewer, you're going to have, you just can't build the home. It doesn't make sense. There's the land cost and the cost to do the infrastructure as a whole just doesn't make sense. So just trying to get that resolved. Regarding, I know a topic was the Metro District. Jack and I've talked to Ashley a couple times now. We're working through some of the nuances of that and having that so that we could actually make the Metro District part of the Pikes Peak Park, the Westgate community, and also bringing in the school. as Jack has got the softball fields and he's going to have the football fields, and not only that, the surrounding areas to bring all that in. Jack's tired of mowing the yard on the mower that he keeps buying and going out on a Saturday morning and doing that. And it's admirable to do that to save costs. But the reality is, we got to save Jack for some of the other things we plan for. So bringing all that in, so all that work is being done behind the scenes as well. We've spoken along with Brian Gallagher to help getting some of the idea of what the preferred market is from an affordable home standpoint. We're taking a little different tactic than Ashley is we want to have that this income could be a single family home or rent to own home that is definitely going to be somewhere where a family can change their family tree with equity. Will there be limitations on selling in 2 years and walking away with the equity? Absolutely. But it's not going to be restricted where you have a family income that drives the fact that only they can afford this home or only they're eligible to buy this home. We're going to have it where it makes sense in changing family trees so that these people are not only in an affordable living home, but also going to be in a home that's giving them equity that they could use and potentially do other things with it, buy other goods and services in the area with what they have and all that stuff. So I just kind of wanted to go over some of that with you guys. And then the last topic I had was, so obviously Jack talked a lot about the income, not only the fact of that, we look at it as a loan almost, because as the homes get built out, which our absorption rate, we're looking at it as 100 homes per year, is that you'd have the property tax. And yes, a portion of that, and maybe a large portion of that would go to the county, but a lot of it's going to still be within the Pueblo community and benefiting schools and benefiting a new school and benefiting other items as parks and all that stuff. Jack and I are very focused on if we can pull this off to be philanthropic and give back. And we've already got some ideas on how we want to do that. You're going to have the sewer tap fees, the development fees, the regional fees, all that stuff. Plus the fact if you have the workers that are getting paid here are being paid in the tax zone of Pueblo. So you're going to have all that benefit as well. So we're looking at a investment, if you counted both the Westgate and the Pikes Peak Park, and the recovery on that is about 4.5 years. So not only are you providing an opportunity first to pioneer some stuff. Now, Fort Morgan did this as well up in the northeast section of Colorado, but you guys will be known as the pioneers that enable the community to start up and start getting families in that can go to an excellent school that can provide goods and services and spend money within the community for all those areas and families and other businesses in the area to help develop all the other businesses to support this. It's just a great opportunity to do this. And so we appreciate the opportunity. The last thing would be, before I send it back to Jack, is I know we're asking for 4.4 million. Even if we can get a start with this first 18 of 2.4, that would be the idea. That would be great to get us going and then be eligible for the next 2.0, at least to get us started on engineering and all that stuff. We have half the homes that we want to build have already power there. So the infrastructure is almost kind of there. It's just a matter of getting the dry utility infrastructure is there. It's just a matter of getting the water and sewer going so we can get that paid for to get everything else going. And then we could take it from there. If we can get this approved quickly, we could have models starting, potentially by February of next year. Thank you. Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, and I just did a little bit of a wrap up. One other thing that I want to mention too is I appreciate the gentleman that mentioned solar before. One of the things that we're also incorporating in over here is a solar farm, and we're actually trying to come up with a solar footprint that actually will offset our entire energy grid cost that we have, which is very, very helpful to the school, because right now we spend roughly about $23,000 a month for electricity costs and stuff like that. And obviously, as we continue to go more towards electricity, it'll change. So we're trying to do that as well. But we want to we thank you folks, and I want to echo what Bruce said. One of the things that does come up anytime you build a building, like right now, we had an opportunity to feed the trades right before Thanksgiving when we were doing the topping off ceremony. And we had about 65 folks that are currently on the job site every day. And they may change, because in the beginning we start out with people that are in the excavation side of it and doing that. Then it changes. We have electricians, plumbers, and that's really what we have on site right now. And then you get your finished folks and stuff like that. So we have a lot of folks. And, what's like Bruce was saying, about the 278 different goods that are go into a house. But that also equates to roughly about anywhere from 60 to 90 jobs per homes that are being built as well. And a lot of that activity will occur in the city of Pueblo. And again, we want to thank you guys as well. But I think the thing that we recognize is the urgency of getting started is probably paramount on us, because when I look at, not only do we believe, being myself being Chavez Huerta, Chief Business Officer, but I know Bruce, as the President of Lifestyle Development, believes that, the time is now. And when it's being, again, to echo that, is I think what's happening, at the planning office. You can see all the stuff that's beginning to happen in the planning office. I just happened to had an opportunity to go by Richmond's site over by the college this weekend. And it was nice and phenomenal to see Pueblo beginning to stretch out that way. But I think there's other ways that we can stretch Pueblo, not only on the west side, because once the 24th Street and the jail starts going through, I think the migration between Pueblo and Pueblo West is going to continue to grow in the middle. So that core is going to grow. But again, we hope that through the mayor's office and his recommendations with the last pillars, I know. Having been involved with the task force, and I really appreciate and love the input of the communities. I love the way we've done it. I mean, I think that's the right way. Mayor Gradishar took it upon himself to do it in a very unique way to what some other communities have done, what I've been aware of, and I really appreciate that from Mayor Gradishar, because he is very helpful. But I think one of the things that we find real interesting when we review the scores of all of that, we realize that the infrastructure cost is a significant initial impact cost, but the recovery of it and the investment forever in perpetuity is very significant. And that's why we wanted to bring up, the last comment there, although we're really asking for the combination between, like ours, $4.5 million, $5 million for NeighborWorks. When you look at that $9.5 million investment, but yet it gets returned over a period, and once the completion's done in 4 years, 4.5 years, there's a significant revenue return of roughly about $7 million a year annually that comes to the city and county of Pueblo and gets to be have an opportunity to get spent in the community. So again, we want to thank you guys. Wish you a great holiday season. Wish you all the best. And those of you folks that are, leaving the city council, I wish you the best. It's been a very, very fun opportunity to work in conjunction with all of you. A lot of you are even my friends that I've had an opportunity to know for a very significant period of time, and I wish you the best in the future. And for all the returning ones, we look forward to working with them. I've realized now, having come to the city of Pueblo as a young freshman that came here to play baseball in college, has lived his entire adult life in the city of Pueblo. My kids are born and raised here. My grandkids are here now. What I really want to do, and I know Bruce mentioned this too, is we feel we have an opportunity to give back to the city of Pueblo and what we're doing. But we also look forward to helping each of you strive to make Pueblo a better place to live, work, and lead. And that's really what we do. It's kind of a mantra that I've always had. Wherever I've been, I've always wanted to be have an opportunity to be part of the change in Pueblo, and I think change is now. So, again, thank you again for the opportunity to present this evening.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Councilor Winter.
Jack, you look like you're in Cabo or something.
Fortunate opportunity. We just got back from Hawaii. We went Thanksgiving for about 10 days into Hawaii. So I felt kind of compelled to keep that. But the interesting thing, Council Winter, is that we I got a buddy of mine who lives over there right now. Well, the Big Island is getting 12 inches of snow and 100-mile-an-hour winds and big waves. So he said it was a good time that we came when we did. But I'm trying to keep that memory there.
Yeah, you need your Tommy Bahama on, kind of goes with the background a little bit more. Is this on the agenda next week?
I'm not sure where it is in the task force, because it was brought internal in the mayor's office, and so we just wanted to have an opportunity to present it with some of the changes. I know that what is on there is 18th Street, the funding
13th.
for 13th Street, and we really appreciate that because that'll be the initial spark that will get all of us rolling. We realize that that's kind of a strategic key area, not only for the safety of the kids, our safety of our students and access to the community, which is extremely important to us, especially with COVID and all the other various activities that occur on the south side or on the west side. But that is on the agenda for the 13th.
Thanks,
And
Chad.
that would be the second reading for the dollar approval for the 18th Street completion.
Okay. Hey, thanks.
Counselor Flores.
Yes, Mr. Martin, if the city is to invest this money in water and sewer, how many lots is that going to provide for single family dwellings?
For the project as a whole, we had Jack, was that number? I think that we had it at 270 for single family, and then
Yes,
another
270.
breakdown of 100
Yeah, I
for
just looked
rent
at
to own, and then some miscellaneous of another 100 of I think apartments. So 270 for the single family.
True, Mr. Flores, what we had, Councilman Flores, what we had in our initial stuff, and we think this actually could be a little bit higher given the density that we could do with the single family rent to own. But we were looking at approximately 200 apartments, single family homes in probably in the neighborhood of about 240 to 270, depending on whether we lose a few lots on the corners that we've predicted. And we did lose a little bit on 18th Street, but it doesn't look like we're going to lose them on 19th or 17th or 16th Street.
And when we say we're losing them, it's due to topography that we have to accommodate maybe a retaining wall at the perimeter, which we came up with to help save it helps with saving cost of road grading, and also with the fact of not eliminating a lot of home sites to keep the single family at a good volume.
If the city does not make this investment, how much would that add to the cost of sale of one of your homes? Right now it stands at $249. How much would that add per home?
And we would not be able to do the project.
Well, I think, Bruce, we could probably do it. I think it would be a marginal project. But Dennis, just to answer your question and looking at it from this perspective, and this is the way we kind of, just as a norm of being a former builder, and looking at it, what we would look at is the additional cost of the savings cost that we're going to incur for each lot is probably in the neighborhood of about $8,000 to $9,000. And if you take that times 5, we're looking anywhere from 50 to 60, even upwards of maybe $70,000 per home, which makes it, is it a good thing to do? And that's when you almost have to look at it and say, well, is it feasible or not?
So the investment, if we're looking for housing, especially housing that people can afford in the community, this is really an investment that the city also has to contribute here to keep the cost of these houses so that they're, that they're a moderate priced home that people can afford. So we should be, as a city council, we should be looking at this as solving probably part of this housing problem, but also trying to keep the cost as low as we can. And I think it's a different kind of perspective to be able to make this kind of decision. I just wanted to clarify how important this was in order to make the housing reasonable and affordable to our citizens. So I thank you for your presentation.
That's correct. And as I mentioned before, the New Homes for Chicago program that I'm kind of using this as my platform is that that's exactly how that worked back then. There was contribution from the city to help with that because you had a certain price point that you could not go over. The absorption would not be able to be absorbed in this community at a cost without the contribution of the water and sewer.
Councilor Schilling?
And I don't want to run over time. I just want to make a statement. It's time for the West Side to grow. The place has been an island since I was a little kid. And the reality of it is that's where they can buy the dirt for the right amount of money. And the dirt price will affect what the overall cost is of the house and the location. And so I'm all for letting the West Side grow. I don't think I'm still going to be on council when you're going to make that decision, but a ghost are going to tell you to go ahead and take care of the West Side. It's time. It's time. Those people have been so independent and patient. It's time to reward them. That's it. Thanks.
So if we're going to do direction from city council to say, when does the last dollar amount for this year's ARPA funds, when do they have to be allocated?
Well, there's no deadline for them to be allocated. We're working on the final round of reviews at this point, and we'll, after the first of the year, have a comprehensive report for council about the ARPA program, where it's at, where the money's been allocated, how much is left, how much will be spent. But I just wanted to make a couple of points if I could. This is the first I've heard tonight is that there were going to be limitations placed on the owners of the homes with respect to equity. So if there are those documents out there, I'd be happy to look at those because that makes a difference in my mind about how we handle this. There are, as you know, in the NeighborWorks development going to be limitations on equity so that those homes will remain affordable. And I understand we need affordable housing in Pueblo, but we need all kinds of housing in Pueblo, not just affordable housing. We need workforce housing and market rate housing. The second thing I want to point out is that the city on your agenda for the 13th of December, you will see us moving money around because that 2 blocks of 18th Street to construct that is going to cost us $1.3 million. Now, I don't think either of you guys own lots adjacent to 18th Street, do you? That's owned by Pueblo Development Company, LLC.
Correct.
So they're the ones that own the lots adjacent to 18th Street. And they agreed with the city. We have an agreement with them that when those lots on 18th Street sell, they're going to pay us half of the original estimate to construct 18th Street. So they're going to pay us half the money back that were put into 18th Street. Now, I view that as sort of a different situation, and that's obviously critical for access. What we're talking about here is not critical streets. And I guess I didn't appreciate you guys weren't asking us to build the roads or the sidewalks. All you wanted us to do water and sewer?
Yes, sir. It's really, Mayor Grashar, what we're looking for is a collaboration with you. We just realized that, when we look at and in visiting with Andy Hayes and his staff, when we looked at the fragmentation of really where water and sewer are in the West Side, it's extremely fragmented. And it's simply done because of over the years of some development, some scattered development, which really causes a major concern. I mean, if we did it in a city, if I did it in either Phoenix, Arizona, or some other major city, a lot of that infrastructure that we're tying to would have already been there. And unfortunately, in our case on the West Side, because of the way it's grown and the way it's been annexed in over time, it's just really when we didn't really grow at the rate that some of the other communities up north has grown. And so we just don't have that opportunity to connect to some of the adjacent supporting. So that's really why we're just asking for a portion of that. And that's been a lot of the discussions that we've had with Bruce and Chris Markey and his staff. We had a good conversation with them. Like I said, I had one about 4 weeks ago. I know Bruce talked to him about 2 weeks ago in regard to that. And, they're still excited about the strength.
Jack, maybe I don't understand correctly. I thought you guys wanted us to put the water and sewer infrastructure in your streets. But are you saying now that you just want us to bring that water and sewer infrastructure to your development?
Well, what we're looking for is really the main corridors of that. And so we're looking for an investment to see if we can get those, and where that would be, Nick, is making sure that, we have it, even if it's not, on the side streets, we don't need anything on the side streets, the ones that go like it, but the parallel streets, we wanted to be able to, provide access because it'll also provide an extension to, when the corridor goes, when 24th Street's got going, that extension, then we'll be able to expand, Pueblo West and the city of Pueblo together. So what this is including is, the main streets being 17th, 18th, 19th, 22nd, and that corridor between, trying to make an adjacent loop up Spalding if we can. If not Spalding, we can go up, I believe it's Oak Street, that would allow us a connection, to not only for ours, but also for 24th Street. There'll be a connecting team where if you connect into it, then you've got water and sewer that you can connect to regardless of what subdivision you do.
So, yeah, if we're talking about, they're having to make off-site improvements, and that's why it becomes uneconomical for them. So they have to bring the water service or the sewer service to their subdivision because there hasn't, it stopped some distance away, sort of like we did when we agreed to put that $2 million sewer pipe in across the YMCA to facilitate that development north of Highway 50. If that's what we're talking about, I think that makes a difference to me versus if we're talking about actually putting the infrastructure in for a developer inside their development. So maybe I don't understand the project completely, or maybe it's changed a little bit, but I'm certainly willing to sit down and have a conversation about exactly what we're talking about in that regard. If it's offsite improvements, I agree that the city could probably help with that a little bit, depending on, how much it costs and what the nature of that is to get it to their subdivision. But we would have no end of requests from developers if we were putting improvements inside the development for developers. I mean, we'd have them lined up for that. So that's.
Yeah, I think, Nick, we'd be more than happy. I know we can get together with you in the very near future, ask Chris to come on in from South Carolina and visit with you guys, or we can do it virtually too, because we do want to share with you kind of what our thought process is, because what I'd like to do is get the maps that Andy Hayes had given to me initially, and I think even Chuck Roy had given to me, that shows the fragmentation of where we are with water and sewer, which is basically the main infrastructures that you need.
Okay. All right. Well, if it's, like I say, if it's getting that to the development, that's one thing. If it's putting the structures inside the development, to me, that's another. But we'll sit down and do that.
Councilor Tencio?
Yeah, I think you answered this question, but let me ask it again. If this water and sewer infrastructure goes in, will other developments outside of yours be able to tap into this one?
Most definitely.
Yes.
That infrastructure will not only serve you, but future developments down the road.
That is correct.
So Jack and I have also talked to the landowners to, I guess it would be the south, and for future development. So as this community builds out, the Westgate community builds out, the idea is now that you have an accurate and infrastructure that's installed with thought process instead of fragmented, now we can carry that on, and dollars would not be needed for going to the future, to the south and to the other areas. But right now we've got everything coming from all different directions. Even with 18th Street, we had to tie in from the west side to the east side, and there was still a conflict that the engineers had to figure out, because it's like, well, why did they do this? Well, they just stopped it. So now we had to figure out the cost of what that adaptation would be. And if we can get a nice, smooth, cohesive infrastructure designed for a good substantial amount of homes, 400 units, then going south, we can do that. And same thing would work well for Ashley going north.
Did you also say you were looking at a improvement district or a neighborhood improvement district?
Yeah, I think what we're looking at is joining forces with Neighbor Works out of that. We think that would be a wise thing to do instead of creating two that would be competing. We'd rather just, and haven't done this President Tencio, I'm fortunate I've had this opportunity. Not only, I know Bruce, we did it in Chicago, but also, down in the Phoenix area and then also up north. Each time we continued to expand, we had to have a metro district. And so what we were able to do is make sure that it incorporated the entire encompass of the area that we did, let alone, because anytime we did it, we had multiple builders in there, multiple developers who were in it. But it was just a common core that we ended up, and we were able to get it started a lot faster because, there.
I like that idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, Jack, I guess you're going to sit down with the mayor and get some more information. I know that we like to dissect everything and look at every nuance on every project, and rightfully so because of the responsibilities that we have to the community. But the reality of it is, when you break this down, you could ask anybody in this room, if I asked you to give me 4.4 million and I told you over the next 30 years that I'd give you back 210 million, I can't imagine anybody would tell me no, that's a bad deal. Here's a developer that needs $4.4 million worth of help and is going to in turn create $7 million a year in revenue for the city that goes into the general fund through sales tax, property tax, all kinds of other things. And, that turns into $210 million over the next 30 years. It's just, sometimes I think we overthink a lot of things and we don't see the forest for the trees. But Jack, I support it, and I hope everybody else does.
Wish you well. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys. We'll move on to number 4 on our agenda, which is the golf course enterprise update. Mr. Lewis, Mr. Breger.
Well, good evening, everyone. I appreciate you having us here. It's been a couple of years due to various circumstances that I think everyone's been through. So we're happy here to at least have the time to catch you up.
Mike, introduce yourself.
I'm Mike Riccatone. I'm the president of the golf committee that oversees the golf enterprise for the city. You have Dave Lewis and Randy Breger. They run the facilities for the enterprise. So I believe we have a slideshow. What's that? This push which button?
The arrow on the right.
Arrow on the right. Okay. Again, we're here at the Pueblo Golf Course Enterprise. The Golf Course Enterprise encompasses 2 courses, Walking Stick and Elmwood. Randy Breger is in charge of Elmwood, and Dave Lewis is in charge of Walking Stick. Who we are. I'm Mike Riccatone. I'm the chairman. Tammy Fesmeyer is the vice chair. Jola, Tino, Karen, and a new member, Jerry Thomas. And at this time, I'd just like to have a brief second to recognize Haji Padilla, who was the president of the enterprise for numerous years. And unfortunately, he was term limited this year, or he'd still be with us tonight. So I just wanted to thank him for his contribution to the golf at Pueblo. I introduced Dave and Randy already, so we'll move on because I figure you guys are wanting to after these last 2 presentations. Target groups, what do we want? We want golfers from the neighborhood community along the Front Range. We want to be golf friendly to everyone along the Front Ridge. We want to introduce junior golfs to keep that synergy going. We got corporate sponsors, Xfinity, 401, to help us do marketing and improve our facilities. We use, I don't think anyone now is social media. It's the number one thing. My kids can't get along without it. Each course has their own website that they personally take care of. We have the marketing with Effect TV, which is Comcast, to market during the winter time because we want to take advantage of the great weather we have out here and the playability for the golf, and to bring income and introduce other people not only to the area, but to bring them into Pueblo to hopefully that they come and love the city like we do and stay. That's not me on the golf course because I never hit nothing that close to the hole. But this is just an example of our course. You could see here, it's an download. You could tell by the trees. And this allows us to show you our commercial that we have been running for the past 3 years, Dave. And we're going to continue to run it this winter to attract more people to come down here and play. So how do we play the commercial? There we go.
Hey, Greg, what's going on?
Trying to stay warm? What are you up to?
Just about to finish up the front nine.
What'd you leave the state?
I'm in Pueblo. Where are you at?
I'm up north. Can I join you?
Yeah, sure. Get down here. I'll catch you on the back nine.
Join us at the Elmwood and Walking Stick Golf Courses in Pueblo and enjoy our spring-like course conditions for just $38.50. Call ahead for tee times. We'll see you soon.
Again, this is an example of it. We wanted to make it humorous to attract people, and people remember us that we have the great weather down here. Even if we do have snowy conditions, if you wait a day, it's gone, as opposed to months that go along up north. So that's just to give, up to you, show it again.
Hey, Greg, what's going on?
Trying to stay warm? What are you up to?
Just about to finish up the front nine.
What'd you leave the state?
I'm in Pueblo. Where are you at?
I'm up north. Can I join you?
Yeah, sure. Get down here. I'll catch you on the back nine.
Join us at the Elmwood and Walking Stick Golf Courses in Pueblo and enjoy our spring-like course conditions for just $38.50. Call ahead for tee times. We'll see you soon.
So how do we improve and keep it going? Junior golf is a key. You got to bring up the people, get them introduced. We've been fortunately through the restriction of COVID that this has increased not only our junior golfer, but golfers among us. Right now, we are working on the First Tee program. I don't know if the council's aware, but that was awarded back about 10 years ago to the YMCA, which really hasn't done much with that. So we're trying to bring it back. Randy and Dave are doing their best to bring it back so we have the right to use it as a first tee instead of just junior golf. Changes in 21. Prim Ivan, who was the guy down in Colorado City, you might have known him. He's actually working with Dave out at the Walking Stick to do private lessons and stuff. And he's a great advocate for golf and a good guy to have. Randy Brager Enterprises just entered into contract for the Outgoing restaurant. And what we tried to do over the last 2 years, just to get you caught up, is we modeled Walking Stick and Dave Lewis's relationship of him having run the golf and the restaurant to move it over to Elmwood to do the same thing, because we felt that that was being very successful and not fragmented. It could be controlled in one direction, and it was easy to go in and talk to Dave or Randy as opposed to who was there or managing at the time. So that changed. The clubhouse at Alma Golf Course opened for business early in 2021, and that's where it changed. So when the contract ended at the end of last year, there was a decisive time in order for it to get it back and running the restaurant part. We had to do the upgrades. We had to get the new people in. it's really coming along right now, and it looks great. Here's an example of the rounds. So average at Elmwood, we're averaging almost 61,000 rounds a year. Walking Stick is 28.5. The difference in the courses is one has 27 hole courses and one has 18. So overall, we're almost up to where we were past, running between high 80s to low 90,000 rounds a year, which is great for our community. Golf rates, resolution 13846 in January 2018. This is accumulation of recognizing that due to costs affecting the golf courses and to bring it more up to market around us, that the increases were done. And these increases were done over increments of time in order for not to be impactful all at once. Obviously, there were some good things about that and some bad things about that. People on fixed income had more of a challenge to meet that rate. And that's why if you look at the rates at both courses, the senior rates and even membership are a lot less. So we are emphasizing that we want to keep our older players playing with us. But in addition, we got to recognize that, unfortunately, as you heard early in these last one, things have gone up 40% over the last year. So the additional revenues, what happened with this increase and the increase of play was the enterprise became self-important. It paid for itself. That's our goal, and with the pros and the committee is to have the golf pay for golf. And that's what we've done over the last 2 years is golf has paid for golf. And it looks like working with the city, with Mike and Steve, that we're able to use those revenues that we have collected in excess of our budgets to do more improvements with our golf course, keeping it in line and keeping the improvements to increase play and attract more golfers to our courses with amenities. Unfortunately, like I said, we are in this crisis, and the cost of doing business continues to go up. Fuel costs, I mean, that's a big thing. Biden just released millions of barrels to help with the fuel. Labor costs. I mean, I was fortunate enough to go to In-N-Out Burger in the spring, one of my favorite places, and they're advertising $17 to $20 an hour to work there. Maintenance equipment with John Deere shutting down and all the other places, and it's just to replace motors and carts and things have increased. Same with the leases. Building maintenance, it's hard to say, but it's over 35 years since we built Walking Stick, and it's been a lot of years since we've been at Elmwood. So unfortunately, we're apt to the life sequence like we did new roofs and, things of that is coming up, air conditioning units, new flooring, all that. The potential here this next 2 or 3 years is 10 to 20%, and I think that's a modest. So our goal with the enterprise committee and with our pros in the city is to look at this over the next year to, again, have golf pay for golf, but to keep this energy and the players playing at our courses. And how do we balance that? So we'll be looking at that over the next year. We're not expecting any rates to go up here in 2022, but we do need to look at the future of our courses. Here's some of the few things that we have been able to do at Elmwood, the new patio, the French drain system to over at the short nine, so you're not walking through muck and tearing it up always. Again, the new restaurant HVAC, which I'm very helpful in July and August over there, that I could actually go in and enjoy a meal. Again, the restrooms that we've done, kind of beautifying the openings to, again, when you walk in, it'd be attractive. That's capital improvements over there. Again, what we did after the first year is put in a new floor in the kitchen, the clubhouse restaurant renovations. And then it's kind of funny because we were so used to growing up in Pueblo is looking at tree replacements and Elmwoods in different courses. Again, over time, beetle kills and other windstorms and just storms that we've had, we got to look forward to doing that to keep it as nice as possible. Again, this is great for the city tournament. We're working with the car pros to get an official board up there, and it looks great. I mean, people like to see their names up there when you're playing for championships and things, and advertisement. Walking stick, the starter shack, that place needed love. The restrooms were out of commission. I don't know if you're aware, for like 6 months because the flooring was dilapidated. The canopy to allow the restaurant to have meals served outside and enjoy the views and just get out of the shade. Again, I talked about that. And again, infrastructure, eventually things are going to break, like the irrigation system backflow that had to be prevented. That's an 8-inch backflow. That's thousands of dollars that just needed to be replaced. Looking at the clubhouse, again, it's over 35 years old, the roof replacement in 2020. And then you look at the golf maintenance and equipment lease, and we got to look at that because we have next year to negotiate and get that in place by 2023. And that also includes equipment. Well, here's the thing. If you go try to buy a golf cart right now, I know the county's still waiting on new cars and trucks from that we ordered last year. So again, is trying to stay ahead and have nice equipment and courses for our players out here, so you have a good experience when you come down and play. That's the things we need to look at. These are kind of our wish lists that we need to do to keep the courses up. Elmwood, the tree replacements that I talked about, is $50,000. Cart path replacements. This is key for Elmwood because it keeps the fairways and the grasses up. It's easier to maintain if you played the different courses. Walking stick, you could keep them on the cart paths, where Elmwood, you can't. You have to go into. So when you have big weather storms, that's a concern. Course shelter renovations, $50,000. Restrooms, $50,000. Perimeter fencing, just to secure the site, $200,000. Again, you could look through here. The main thing, the maintenance on the building, the landscaping, adding new signs. One of the things we'll probably be talking a lot out at Elmwood is the parking lot entrance. If you've been to that parking lot, it needs a lot of love. It really does. We've got probably 30, 40 years of usefulness out of it, which is fantastic. But now we need to add in it. And for Ray, we also put it on there because you always asked us when we're going to build a new clubhouse out there. Well, that's a $6 million plus commitment. So that's the thing, is we'd love to do it, but can we afford to do it and still have the golf pay for itself? So those are the things that we're looking for at that course. Walking stick, again, restroom renovations. We probably get this topic. We're looking at trying to get those restrooms on the front and back open year round and heated, so we don't have the complaints of having to use porta potties or complaints from the people who live there, unfortunately. The course weather shelters, again, hasn't really had much love since it opened 30 years ago, $50,000. Probably the key right there is the kitchen expansion. AJ's been very successful there at a very limited kitchen. So that would help improve and bring more people to the golf course. Again, parking lot renovations. They've topped it and fixed it, but again, it's just dilapidated over the years. And we'd like to do the parking lot entrance to make it look nice again, as like it was new. And then I always laugh at this because Steve Myers is a component of that, is tree replacement and walking stick. It needs to be done. It's funny, but it needs to be done. So I'll turn it over to you guys. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask me or the golf pros, we're more than happy.
Thank you. Questions, comments? I'm a little perplexed that number one isn't the executive course restroom. you know, past 4 years for a potty over there and you just can't get one. Counselor Atencio?
Mark, it's done for this upcoming year. Get started on it.
This upcoming year?
It's getting started.
Nice, nice.
Well, I'm really glad to see that you're going to start the first tee program. That's really big. Because I mean, kids is where it's at. And if we can build a first class first tee program here in Pueblo, I mean, the whole golf experience will be better for everybody because kids, high school, middle school, every place will be a lot better. So I'm really glad to see that it's going to be done because the white MCA didn't do a thing with it. And all the other things that you're doing. I mean, I go there about once a week and I get to see it. So, and you're doing good work.
Thanks.
2 years ago, we talked about those sprinkler system loan was coming due or whatever. And then we were talking about using that money for the new clubhouse. Where's that loan at? Is it almost paid off yet?
I believe we have 2 more payments. So it'll be 2023 that it'll be paid off. And then that'll free up $200,000 out of a year.
Yeah, so it was a $4.5 million loan, wasn't it? Or
no, 1.7.
1.7. Wishful thinking.
Yes. I could have done a lot with 4.5. But yeah, it'll be done in 2023. It was 12 years. So that should free up a lot of capital money.
There you go. Mayor?
A couple of things. Number one, Dan just reminded me that since this is an enterprise, that the general fund can't contribute more than 10% of their operating expenses every year. I don't know what percentage we contribute now. None. Okay, good. The other thing is, are we doing online tea times? How come?
Is that on or off?
It's
okay. Actually, we're getting a lot of members from up in Colorado Springs now down here. They went to Patty Jewett went to a totally online system, and people are frustrated with it. Very frustrated. It's actually hurt play up there. It's brought people down here. The demographics that we have in Pueblo, especially at Randy's place, for the seniors to get on and do the tea times that way, there's been a lot of pushback when we've brought it up. It can be an amenity for out of town people to make the tea times. We actually have the ability to do it through our point of sale system. It would take a little bit of upgrading with it. I did it a few years ago, and I did it for about 4 years with a company called Golf Smash. And a lot of times when you do those online, there's a trade out with the company that you do it with, like Golf Now or Smash. What was it called? Golf Smash. You would give 1 tea time a day, 365 days out of the year, 1 tea time a day for you to have their service. The first tea time that's sold on that is theirs. So you're losing. You're not necessarily losing. They get to keep the money. We don't get that money from that 1 tea time. No. So we can. Sure. Oh yeah. No, it's a little bit of a logistics with, getting, if you let people do it too far out in advance and you have an event, you don't get the event on there in time. I mean, Randy and I are a lot of one-man operation type of stuff when it comes to that. That's no excuse though. But usually 7 days. So we do Wednesday morning. We do everything for Saturday through the next Friday. So we have to have that set up. So that's a good point that you just brought up. We're already doing 7 days in advance. So, I mean, it's something that we've looked at over the years. Like I said, I tried it. We had a few issues with, probably I'll take the blame on that. I didn't get some events on the calendar in time for them, and they would make the tee times, and then we'd have some unhappy guests, but I'd generally be able to get them around the, you know, at the country club or over at Randy's place or something like that. We made good on it, but it's something that we should look at. It's just really that Colorado Springs thing where they made it totally online and all that. It's a bad deal.
And if I can add just a little bit, at Elmwood, obviously we do a lot more rounds, especially the local golfers. Local golf, some people who have complained and want online tee times, which I understand is a convenience. It's hard to get a tee time at Elmwood, but everybody wants to play in a certain window, say 7 to 10 a.m. Okay. And unfortunately, not everybody can play at that time. But I have had, and so we still, if we do the online, you still have to block out for leagues, tournaments. Okay. And like Dave says, you know, but we'd block out a lot because we have a lot of leagues at Elmwood. I mean, and that's guaranteed income. You can't do away with that. Now, I've had several groups who have threatened or said that, you know, if we do go online, that they will take their business to Holly Dot. So it's kind of a catch-22. So it's, you know, it's a touchy situation, but yes, it's definitely something that we can look at and try to make it work, to try to appease everybody if we possibly can. It's going to be that, you know. But nice thing is we don't want to hurt play. And as Dave said, there's a lot of people come down and play because of it. We've actually had, I've had two families that have actually joined down here because of that. We've had a couple that moved to Pueblo just because of that. But it's amazing how many people up there discourage us from doing that because of what's happened up there. Yeah. So
What you need to do is have a system that allows us seniors to go through Lexi. I guess nobody watches Saturday Night Live, right?
No, but
Lexi, make.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, what we can do is we can definitely put our agenda to look on, and maybe even just do it for certain days.
We could do a trial thing and just see how it goes. Yeah.
But the main thing about online stuff is, especially I judge every online by my kids. They change their mind every 5 minutes, where they can go online and book a tee time, and that's takes away from other golfers, and then they go shopping or they go biking or that, and they forget to cover that. So by calling it in is an actual effort to make sure that, and I don't know, the pros could probably tell me more, that by doing such, I think we have less cancellation than normal courses do because of that. But by all means, we need to look at the future, and maybe we could start on a certain day, like a Thursday, or where we're running specials anyway, on our promotional days, that maybe we could do that and have that. But the thing we don't want is what happened up north, is where they show up to pay for their rounds, and all of a sudden they're so busy that your round costs you an extra $25 if you want to play. And their attitude was, if you don't want to, I got 10 people waiting to do that. So we want the experience here to be pleasant and friendly and not competitive. That's just my feelings.
Well, you guys are really accommodating, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, you guys are really accommodating to anybody who comes down here. I every once in a while I'll play with somebody from Colorado Springs or Denver, because I go out there alone. I have to steal an afternoon every once in a while, but people they love this place. I mean, people from out of town just are crazy about this place, and they can't believe the service that they're getting. It's up personal. It's everything about it is much better than courses up north. So
and the people up north did say, the customer service has really gone bad because of it. Yeah, we get that. Yeah.
Councilor Schilling.
I appreciate you considering our ideas, but nobody up here knows squat about running a golf course. Thank you.
And so true, so true. Is it? We don't even know how to play golf. Let alone. All right. Does anybody else have anything? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. I move that we go into executive session for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and or instructing negotiators under CRS Section 24-6-402, Parent 4, Parent E. And the following additional details are provided for identification purposes: to instruct negotiators regarding proposed employment contract amendments with local businesses and other economic development projects. Got a second? Everybody okay? All right. We're adjourned.